I'm going to depart from the conclusion of our series today. We were going to do the fifth lesson on the Quest for Wholeness series, and in some ways it'll relate to the topic, which is faith. But I want to address squarely what is on many of our minds and hearts, certainly on mine, regarding the events that transpired in South Carolina Wednesday night. And what dawned on me as I was sitting here listening to the song is that, in New Thought and Unity, which is a very positive philosophy, we're really good at expecting the best. But we're not quite as skilled or practiced in preparing for the worst. And it's great if everything works out. But somehow, the way life goes, we just don't know. We don't know which way the wind's going to blow. We don't know what circumstances are going to wash up on the beach of our lives and be there for us to deal with. I was so powerfully moved by the response of the family of those who were killed that it got me thinking, are we doing enough here in this community? And as spiritual leader, am I doing enough to deepen our faith so that when life does what life does and does not give us that bed of roses that we would like to expect, all things coming up rosy, how are we prepared? What's the true grit of our faith? What do we know beyond a shadow of a doubt that we could draw upon when such tragedy strikes? And of course, we may say, well, the odds of that happening aren't very good. But every day I hear the odds of things that I would not want any of you to have to deal with arising as everyday occurrences amongst friends and families. I have another colleague, a 43-year-old woman who's in hospice care for breast cancer. I bedside someone, Evelyn Robles, some of you may remember. She passed this week. I was there blessing the body. Of course, she had lived a full life. Those people in South Carolina, some of them had lived a full life. Our work is not to manipulate life as if we could even do that. Our work is to prepare the heart, the soul, to recognize something more true, something more deep, something more unassailable, something that can't be extinguished, that which lives beyond the body. That's the spiritual journey. It's never really been about anything else. And sometimes we get lost in the ego's plan for spirituality. And the ego's plan for spirituality just says, if I pray and meditate, my life will show up the way I want it to. Maybe I can manipulate, circumstances. Maybe I can, like this woman, I was watching a YouTube video the other day, and she was standing before this spiritual teacher, and she was a beautiful woman in her early 30s, and she did not know whether she was going to survive breast cancer. And she said, I thought if I worked out, had a vegetarian diet, and meditated, that I would avoid this. And the spiritual teacher said, there's no guarantees. The only thing that we can do is prepare ourselves internally for the vagaries of the external. Yes? For the external life is going to do what the external life is going to do. And so there's only one thing for us to do. And that's to know who we really are. And those people in South Carolina had a fervent faith, an active faith. They immersed themselves in the teachings. So much so that a day after their loved ones had been murdered, they went to the jail where the perpetrator was behind bulletproof glass. And they forgave him through their tears, through their grief, because they understood something deeper than what the ego would want to do in that moment. They knew that if they were to move into hatred, if they were to move into resentment, if they were to move into casting this person out, that they would be hardening the very heart, which was the heart in which they experienced the love of God. Can we say the same thing? Can I say the same thing? I'd like to think so. What I am saying to you today is that I don't want to wait to find out. I want to invite you and myself to deepen our practice. I talked to you 6 months ago about how I had started to deepen my spiritual practice and how it was bearing fruit for me. I just want to remind you again how important that is. We don't do anything in the middle of the week here, and I'm going to find a way to do something. Maybe it's meditation, maybe it's a brief message, we just sit in the silence, maybe we refer to scriptures. These people were in a Bible study on Wednesday night. And I wanted to share with you what they were studying. They were reading from the New Testament, the book of Mark. And it was a story of the farmer who scattered seeds on the path. This is Mark 4:3. Listen, Jesus says this. A sower went out to sow. And as he sowed, some seed fell on the path, and the birds came and ate it up. Other seed fell on rocky ground, where it did not have much soil, and it sprang up quickly. And since it had no depth of soil, and when the sun rose, it was scorched, and since it had no root, it withered away. Other seed fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked it, and it yielded no grain. And other seed fell into the good soil and brought forth grain, growing up and increasing and yielding 30 and 60 and 100-fold. And he said, let anyone with ears to hear listen. What I believe Jesus was talking about in that parable is the good seed, the good soil of receptivity. Are you receptive to the truth? Are you really open? Is your heart open to hear something deeper? Are you willing to do what it takes to touch into something more eternal than the passing show of life? It takes diligence. It takes faith. It takes dedication to practice. It takes standing up to the false, the unjust, the expedient ways. It's not easy, but it bears fruit. It bears fruit now, and it bears fruit particularly when life hits the fan, when tragedy strikes, when the temptation would be for you to believe that something fundamental has been taken from you, and because you're connected to something more eternal, something more lasting, something that can't be taken from you, rises to meet the challenge, rises to be the peace, rises to be the equanimity that we're all going to need at some point in our life. I met with someone this week in a session in my office, and what I was struck by in our conversation was him saying that, I don't know if people really understand how powerful these teachings are. Do you? When I talk about these being transformative teachings, I'm not speaking with superlatives, trying to create a banner for Unity of Santa Barbara. Talking about it because I've been transformed by them. My wife has been transformed by them, and dozens of people that I know. But transformation only happens if you provide the good soil of receptivity, and if you provide the element of immersion. We have to marinate in these teachings. It's not just a matter of repeating some affirmations and singing some songs and going on back to our lives and forgetting how these teachings are true in every moment. It's a dedication. Immersion leads to conversion, is what I came up with. It's immersion. It's immersing ourselves in these teachings. And I sat in a place like this for a number of years in San Luis Obispo, 20 years ago. And I had my first awakening experience, my first temporary glimpse of ongoing, of temporary non-symbolic experience of what you call an enlightened state. And it was just sitting here on a Sunday morning with my heart wide open, with a knowing that there's something so true here that I already know to be true inside of me. And when that links up, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about you listening to me. I'm talking about you looking at what I'm pointing to inside yourself. It's not me. It's not about me. I'm the mouthpiece for the teachings, that's all. But what I point to, if you look at, you'll see it. You'll know it. This is not an intellectual exercise. This is not a mind trip. It's all heart. You'll never figure this out. Your mind is your worst enemy when it comes to these teachings. I'm telling you. Because it's opposite of everything the mind thinks. It's everything the world teaches. The world tells you your answer is out here. Truth says it's already here. The world says someday it will come. Truth says it's here and now. The ego says, if I could just get it the way I want it, I'd be happy. Truth says, that's not true. Because we've watched you. Truth says, you can be established in this now if you have a heart open. Events like happened Wednesday night sometimes has beautiful consequences in that people suddenly spring their hearts open because they're asking the question, why? And show me the good, right? Have you said that? Where is the good in this? Especially in our teachings where we believe that there's one presence and one power, God the good, everywhere present. And then we see a situation like this, and so we yearn, we lean into, an intense wanting to know. Show me the good. And it's out of that intense yearning for showing the good that we are receptive suddenly. Our hearts are open. And that's what these people did in South Carolina. families, and friends as they went deep in their faith instead of into the ego. So can we do this? Can we deepen this? I want to read a statement from Reverend John Paul Thomas. He's the minister in Washington, D.C. of the same denomination, the African American Methodist Episcopal Church, I think is what it's called. And he's in the Washington, D.C. congregation. He says this: faith has allowed me and others to turn the tragedy of the shooting in Charleston, South Carolina, into an opportunity for growth and unity. This Sunday, today, in the holy city, it's what they call Charleston, South Carolina. There's so many churches there. This Sunday in the holy city will be different. There will be a call for healing, a call for justice. I know for a fact it only serves to make things better. Always in tragedy, the creation of God has instilled in man a redeeming quality. Hear this fellow named Dylan, who sought to wipe out, created an unrealistic explosion of warmth and love and caring and sharing. Clearly, you begin to see the opposite of what he wanted to see happen. Dylan, what was your intent? To create a divide? While we pray for your soul and that you may come to reality and join the human race again, we also thank you for allowing people to see what evil looks like, and then you allow us to show them why good triumphs over evil. We have an opportunity when these things happen, and this is all vicarious to you and I sitting in this room. We have an opportunity to say, you're being put on notice of what real faith can do for you, what a real knowing, how it can stand up against the worst situations in life. But what will we do starting today to deepen that faith? How available are you to these teachings? It's fine to come here and just check out the church, but if you've been coming here for a while, I want you to know you are in the midst of some powerful, new thought, ancient wisdom teachings that people have completely awakened with into their Christ nature, to their Buddha nature, and to knowing their I am beyond all appearances. That's what's here. That's the opportunity. And that's my invitation to you. I don't know what that means for you individually. You will know that. But I do know that I would rather be saying this to you now, and maybe again, and maybe yet again, than to feel that we just had too good of a time together. And we just surfed on the surface of these teachings. I hope you hear this from the depth of my heart. I want to share a story with you to close. This came from a spiritual teacher by the name of Muji, who's an Advaita teacher of non-duality, who I often watch. And this woman that I had mentioned to you had breast cancer. This is another one, not the one I mentioned to you, but this woman was probably in her early 30s, and had done everything that she thought was going to prevent her from having this condition. And she went to the spiritual teacher and she said, I've been meditating and I've been practicing these principles, and what I want to know is, how do I keep this body alive with these teachings? Not an unreasonable request, but this is his response. He said, let me tell you a story. And this is a story he told. The story, and I don't know whether this is true, but it doesn't matter. The conclusion is what's important, the lesson in it. He told the story of Alexander the Great, who apparently had this passion for immortality, to search it, to find out whether there was something, and he had heard that there was some immortal nectar of immortality that was somewhere in the world. And he was determined to find it. And so he brought all of his wisest advisors and counselors and horsemen and trackers into this session of saying, I send you out into the world. Find this nectar of immortality and bring it to me. So they all went out, and using their best wile and guile and the contacts and connections that they had throughout the land, came back after many weeks and said, we are so sorry, but we cannot find this that you refer to. We cannot find it. He said, never mind, I must go. So he heads out, and he travels all through the land. Arduous journey, 6 months, 7 months. Finally, he happens upon a farmer, and he mentions for the umpteenth time, I hear there is this nectar, this immortal potion. The farmer says, yeah, it's true. Alexander the Great's taken back. He said, well, really? Well, tell me, where can I find it? Robert says, you go over that hill, down the hill, there is a man there. He will show you where you can find it. So Alexander the Great trots off, finds this man, and says, are you the one who knows about this nectar, this immortality? And he says, yeah. He says, it's just, you go up that hill, about halfway up. There's a cave, there's a hole. Go in there, there's a deep cave, you'll find it. Go on your way. So summarily dismisses him. So Alexander the Great is filled with hope. He scrambles up the hill, and it takes him half the day to get up. It's very steep and rocky, and he finally gets to this opening. Crawls in. Exhausted. He looks into the depth of this cave. And he sees a glow. He knows that he's in the right place. So he begins walking towards this glow. Finally walks into a place, opening in the cave, huge cathedral, and it's glowing, and it's dripping this amber, honey-like substance, and the room is aglow. And he says, oh, I have found it. And so he reaches his finger up and put his finger on some of this nectar, and it drips onto his finger, and he begins to put it in his mouth. And just about when he's ready to put it in his mouth, a voice, stop! And he looks around and just shocked. Thought he's hearing voices. He composes himself, puts his finger back up, gets the nectar to put it in his mouth. Don't do it. Is there someone here? And he sees no one. So he looks. Back in the corner, he sees a raven, like bird, sitting on a stick. I said, is that you that spoke to me? Yep. And he says, why did you tell me to stop? He says, because I took that nectar. I've lived for 200 years. I cannot die. My feathers have holes in them. I'm covered in cobwebs. I cannot die. I cannot fly. Don't do this. Don't do this. And Alexander understood in his heart. So the bottles, all the bottles that he had brought with him to fill with the nectar, he smashed on the ground and left them. And he walked out of the cave. This is a time body. It has its time. What we want to seek for is not immortality in the body, but we want to seek the timelessness of our own being. That's the journey. That's what you and I want. That's what we want to discover. That's what we want to unfold, is to know in our heart of hearts that we are invulnerable to the vagaries of time, of decay, of age, of difficulty, of challenges. This is what you and I came for. We came in this life to let this false sense of self, not to keep it alive, but to let it die. Let it go. Let it go. This is what can happen here. What we're pointing to every Sunday is that part of you that will give you that everlasting happiness, that everlasting peace, that love that is without condition, that peace that passes human understanding. That's what we point to through our teachings. And then you get to decide whether you want to imbibe that, whether you want to marinate in that, and become so infused in that awareness that you finally feel safe. You finally feel immortal. You don't care as much about what rises and what falls and what comes and what goes, because you're established in the truth of your being. And then maybe if you are so changed, there's been so much alchemy have taken place in you, then maybe you could even go to the one who's taken the life of a loved one. And offer forgiveness. So my time with you going forward is going to be not to do anything less than what I'm talking about today. I think that's why you're here. And if I'm wrong, some of you will leave. And if I'm right, many of you will stay and change. And some who seek this will come. I need to be true to myself. I need to be true to what I think is our mission, which we say every Sunday. Except this Sunday. Did we say it this Sunday? Yes. Well, okay. Sometimes it's become somewhat robotic, and that's part of the problem. To realize and express our divine nature. And the realizing part is sometimes the hardest. So we're going to create something here, and I don't know what it is, but there's going to be something in the middle of the week. I've got to find a space in this community, in this building that's occupied by many activities. I want to find a space, and maybe it'll be the church basement, which would be very ironic and beautiful. We have a church basement too. And maybe we'll start it by reading about the seed falling on good soil and finding out how many people are receptive to go forward. Because it can change us at depth. These teachings are not just nice things to put up on your refrigerator. They'll take them into your heart. We can heal through this. We can heal through anything. It's because what God provides and has already provided. Jesus said, as pray believing that you have received. Grace provides it. We don't have to provide it. We just have to be open to it. We have to be teachable. Namaste. Blessings. There's evidence that it's happening here. Unity of Santa Barbara has transformed the way I approach my day-to-day life. Every day, not just on Sundays, I feel a sense of peace and connection with God that I could not even dream of before finding unity. My Garden of Eden is the place that my unity-inspired, ever-evolving perspective takes me regardless of life circumstances. And for this, I am eternally grateful to Unity of Santa Barbara. And I am eternally grateful for these teachings as well, and for the opportunity to be a mouthpiece for these teachings, and for you, for how you inspire me, for the person who came into my office this week and reminded me of what we have here and the possibilities that we have here. To maximize those is to do all you can with what you've been given, internally and externally. So thank you for your gifts. Thank you for how you support this ministry going forward, that it can be a place that changes lives, that can be a place where people wake up. It can be a place where people heal and grow and find meaning beyond what the world can offer, and provide such a resolute well of faith that we can face life on life's terms. Because it's going to keep coming however it's going to come. Will we be prepared? We know what to do. We can do this together.